Good. Yeah, so let's just sit for a few moments and just slow down and arrive and prepare for this lovely journey of intimacy within ourselves. And as you begin to relax into your body, just notice if there's any areas of subtle holding, and how would it feel if you didn't hold those areas. So just let the body naturally just relax into itself. We're lost in the woods. The worst thing to do is to wander around looking for the way out. Looking for a way out uses up our energy, makes us feel more and more frantic, and usually gets us even more confused and further from help. The best thing to do when we are lost in the woods is to sit down, make a nice fire, and relax. The best thing is to wait for help to find us. If we're bored, we can make messages on the ground for airplanes to read. We're lost in complexity. Looking for space in our life fills up the space of our life. It exhausts us and makes us feel more and more frantic and takes us further from help. Let the spaciousness of life find us. It is always here, which is precisely where we are. Relax. Help is very near. Now yoga. And let's just take a few more moments to sit with our opening and just contemplate that lovely line that Stephen shared with us, that looking for space in our life fills up the space in our life. Good. So if you could just come forward and come into a child's position, that would be great. We're not going to be here for a really long time. I actually want to stretch the ankles. So if you are able to just come into it without any bolstering or pillows, just allow your upper body to just relax from the lower back. You can have the knees close together or a little apart, the arms forward or by your side. Or if you want a little assistance, you can just pull the bolster and relax on the bolster, or your pillows or blankets or whatever you're using for support. So just ease in slowly into the body to not, I like to really remind myself and just remind us that, the primary function of yoga really is not to jump into the body and start to alter it and try to get rid of all of the tightness and the tension. It's really, as Stephen was suggesting, it's to open up some spaciousness. It's to open up a place where we can explore. It's very much like yoga is a funny word, because it could be very, such a simple word translated as unification, but it lends itself to being misinterpreted very much. It's almost as if we wanted to study the ocean, and we were just studying wave patterns or currents, and that's all we studied, we wouldn't know anything about the ocean. We'd know about wave patterns and currents. Or if we went below the surface and we started to be obsessed with jellyfish and the beauty of them and the way that they float and flow, we know a lot about jellyfish, but still not so much about the ocean. So the invitation to this particular practice, and really for just the whole of yoga, is to allow yourself a degree of just floating. Allow yourself a degree of just drifting. And then if a jellyfish passes by and we want to explore it, or if a current catches us and we want to explore it, or we want to drift down deeper to the depths that are a bit more mysterious and we want to explore it, this is the availability of yoga. The asana is just to hold ourselves in a gentle stillness and quietness, so we can begin to make this internal journey. And nothing necessarily wrong with studying the specifics. We want to have the option to study both. So just allow yourself to draw yourself inward. Notice what is drawing your attention, and then always know you have the choice to either be drawn to what's asking for attention, or just soften and relax it and allow yourself to drift through the currents and the internal landscape of your own body. And then let's begin to roll up from the child's pose. And I want to spend a little bit of time in the ankles. And I'm going to give you a few options before I go into the deeper pose. And just to share with you, suppleness and hydration in the ankles, very, very important to many things, gait and balance. So if we do start to develop a susceptibility to being off balance, to falling, it's primarily that stiffness in the ankle and the foot that's going to allow that, because it doesn't have the ability to correct our balance up into the knee and the hips. So this is an extremely worthy area. This is not just periphery to our practice. We want the ankles and the arches and the toes to have as much suppleness as possible. And because most of us compress this area more than almost any other area in the body, and we don't work it regularly, there tends to be a lot of discomfort and stiffness. So what you can do is you can go back to this default position, we'll call it, of the child's pose, and release the tension, anytime you need to. And just to begin, you can just come up like this and just have the hips, shoulders over the hips on the ankles. So right now I'm putting some compression into my ankles, and that's lovely. If you want to start to deepen it, you can take one of your many bolsters. I'll just take the big bolster, but you could take a pillow, whatever you have, and just put the knees up on it. And so now we're arching the feet, we're not curling the toes. So now when I bring that body weight back onto the heels, it's compressing deeply into mostly the ankles, but a little bit of the metatarsals and the foot bones. And again, if you need to release this because the discomfort is more than you feel safe with, just bring your body forward anytime you need to. So we can spend maximum time, but certainly not struggling with this. Then if you want to do the ankle stretch unassisted, let me just show that. What we would do then is we would take the fingertips and put them on the floor. I guess if your arms are really long, you can put your palms down, but I go to the fingertips. And then we'll bring the knees up towards the chest, still arching the feet. And then there's two positions here to hold. One is the more I bring my knees up to my chest and bring my upper body forward, the more I'm much more into my arches and my metatarsals. Quite lovely. And then if I'm letting the knees down and the upper body back, this then goes deeply into the ankles themselves. So you can kind of play with that. Well, just kind of stay here for whatever position you're in, either just sitting, knees up on some bolstering, or putting the hands on either side and just kind of playing up and down. And just feel into it, especially if you're not used to compressing here and hydrating and giving this area of your body the attention it really deserves. Having our balance and having our gait so it flows, just extremely important just for our overall energy patterns as well. You'd be surprised when you start to carry the weight around instead of having it move gracefully. It's exhausting. Yeah, so we want to start to enter into the ankle area. And so again, if you have the fingers on either side, we bring the knees up, the upper body forward, arches, metatarsal toes. We bring the knees down, upper body back, more to the ankles. Yeah. And or something under the knees. I'll use a blanket this time. So this is elevating a little less than the bolster, but still you can kind of feel this accentuate, or just coming up from child's pose, sitting on the ankles, and then have the release whenever you need it. Yeah. So let's just stay here. Let me just quiet down a bit. And I'd just like you to bring your focus into the discomfort itself. Don't push it away. Don't be afraid of it. Just understand that this is your body's way of inviting you in for an exploration. And this certainly would be the time. This would be a current or a wave or a jellyfish. We want the specificity. You want to feel the condition of the suppleness and the range of motion of this part of the body. And interesting, I'm using the imagery that there's compression here. Yes, compression into the strands of the fascia and the bones and the joints, but also I'm talking about dehydrating. So this dehydration, a lot of that achiness you feel and that stiffness is a product of these fluid pathways coming into a place of dehydration. Good. So let's release now. Wherever you are, we'll just release, bring the knees down, remove the bolstering, come back into your child's pose. And then once you've released out of the ankle, stretch, just let yourself roll to the side onto your back. And I'd just like you to release the legs out. And once the legs are relaxed out, just bring the feet up just about 6 inches off the floor and just shake them out. So this is movement into this compressive area. So just shake them and shake them and shake them and shake them. Yeah. Yeah, it's just nice energetically to really weave the movement into that compressive feeling of achiness and contraction. And then just bring the knees up to the chest. Yeah, tuck the knees in. If you'd like to bring the legs up a bit and do well, at this point in class, this would be a not so happy baby. You could just hold on to the feet, or you can hold on to the shins or the ankles, open the legs out, and just kind of pull in a little bit to feel how the hips are doing. Maybe do some circles with the feet out and then in a little bit. And just again, for not only gait and balance and overall suppleness, but also for dancing. So we want to be able to dance well into our late 90s and early 110. So we want to keep the dancing moving as well. I don't know, I can't remember who the poet is, but some line about when I'm old, I will wear purple. Well, I'm getting old and I'm wearing purple today, but for me, when I get old, I will keep dancing. So, good thing to do. So, come on up from all of that shaking and ankles and toe tingling. And let's have something, just a blanket or a towel in front of you, just to soften the ankle. And let us bring the left leg in front, and just in front, basically parallel to the body. We've kind of tucked it in a bit, but not too much. And then take the right foot and put it in front of that left leg. So we're approximating a square position. So this is open square. This is intentional, yeah? And then gently start to allow your body to fold forward, and then using whatever support. So I've got a nice pillow here to slow down the upper body weight. Very important. Again, we're not so much emphasizing the geometry and the contraction of the body. That's just our container. We're wanting to feel the relationship between density and spaciousness. So we go too fast, the body tends to tighten, or we miss that relationship, the threads of constriction, contraction, and density, and where it might feel open. So we're always making a decision, moment by moment, where we want the body to hover. Some days it's deeper than others. So just work with your body as it is right now. Try to drop the head down as much as possible to allow the upper spine to relax into the lower spine. And continue to cultivate this energy that you're still arriving, you're still moving inward. So the posture itself, even though we do eventually settle into an energy of stillness, it's never static. So always have the freedom to make subtle adjustments, to relax a bit more, and really to inhabit your actual experience. Just staying with the noticing. This is a very delicate quality that we have, to be able to notice our experience. And what I invite you to do as well, just to add something to that, is to notice as carefully as you can that the experience of what is actual Your actual in the moment experience is always a bit beyond your concept of it. And so this is a lovely interplay to start to explore. So you're experiencing, let's say you're experiencing my voice, that's an actual experience, but we can't actually grasp that. It's beyond our ability to conceptualize what that is. Same thing with these sensations. So this feeling of a sensory experience, we want to stay with the actual experience and not keep overlapping, weaving into the concept of it. And so this is just an interplay. This is not a technique. This is nothing that can be right or wrong.
Good. So let us come on up from here, and we will visit back. So just come on up,
and let's take the right leg and just relax it out. So relax the right leg just right out in front of you. And then we're going to take that left leg, the back leg, and scoop it all the way around back. Well, not all the way. I just say that to distinguish between pulling it in towards so the thighs are together. We don't want the thighs together. What I mean by all the way back is just gently start to push that left knee in back of you. If your hips are tight, good chance you're going to start to go over to the right side. Get your bolstering or your pillows or blankets to lean on, because we want to come forward towards the right leg. So the left leg is pushing back a little bit, but only to the left hip tugs. If there's a list to the right, use as much support as you need on that right side. If you want to bring the bolstering in on the inside of the leg, that's always possible. And eventually where we're going, if your hips are feeling nice, we're going to go more towards the center here and then bring the body down so the forehead comes to the floor close to it. This is a very interesting and unique way to approach that hamstring of the right leg and the torquing of that left hip pelvic area. So that's the general framework of it. And obviously don't force anything, but don't force this left knee back. Yeah, eventually it'll just start to loosen and open, but eventually is a relative thing, huh? And also we can take things like awkwardness. So if this feels awkward, what is your actual experience? Can you allow yourself to embody awkwardness again without having to overlap or interweave all of these different concepts, what we think it is, what we're conditioned to believe it is, as opposed to what is it? Boredom, restlessness, achiness. We can take anything that's appearing and we go into it as directly, as closely, as honestly as we can to see what the actual experience is. And what's really fascinating, I'll just kind of give you a spoiler alert here, we can't actually grasp it. And so this is why, that in itself can be uncomfortable. So this is when the mind wants to come up with a concept. The mind wants to come up with a definition. And then that's where we are. We're at the definition. We're at the programming. So the challenge is to see that and to allow yourself to sink into this actuality. And it's only happening right now. and it's direct and it's available to you.
Good. So let's come on up from here.
And I'd like to continue where we were. So first thing is first is to take that left leg and bring it back around front. And you can keep it going and bring it in right to where it was. The second time, I would like to invite you to bring that right foot up onto the calf, if you're able to do that for just our traditional square. And if this is not available to you, I understand, then just go back to the open position. So open position is fine. If you're able to bring it up onto the calf, we'll close it up a bit. And then the same thing, the forward bend, relaxing all of the weight of the upper body. Unless it feels unsafe, it's okay to feel the tightness radiating from lower spine to upper spine. We don't necessarily want to avoid it, and bolster up this forward bend if you need to. Really do, if you find yourself starting to stretch forward, that's going to activate the lower back muscles. It also sometimes is an avoidance of deeper tension. So if you can just round the lower back, relax it. This is why often if the torso is just hovering in midair here, we want the bolster so we feel safe to sink into the lower back. One of the reasons this slow and clear exploration of actuality can be so interesting is because when we're able to really enter into it, when we're able to see the difference between what's actual and what the mind is just continually, telling us stories about what's actual, at some point we see that there's only a variation and mystery, that whatever it is, it's dissolving into what's next. Whatever it is, it's dissolving into what's next. And the actuality gives us this taste, it gives us this flavor of the experience, but 99.9% of it is mysterious. And this is the beautiful thing about just coming into this embodied state. And the, the metaphor of the ocean holes, because we could spend our whole life exploring the ocean and it would be the same thing. It's always shifting and changing, and no matter how much we explored, most of it would remain a mystery. And if this causes us to contract, if this causes confusion, if this causes uncertainty, then we get to use this tool of actuality, and we get to explore what is confusion, what is anxiety. So allow yourself to drift. If something arises that is drawing your attention, allow yourself to explore it. Don't be concerned, don't be overly preoccupied, and allow yourself to go back to drifting. Allow your exploration to be as personal as it can be to what your needs are moment to moment. There is nothing but variation and mystery. Good. So let us drift up from here, and let's lie down and just come into a restful position, whatever that is for you. We'll take a rest, and we're going to go into the other side, but let's take a rest first. Yeah, speaking of the variation in the mystery, one of the things that continues to just inform me, but also, quite humble me and amaze me with this approach to the body, is very often I'll have this intention, like, oh my God, this one part of my body, I just want to release it or soften it or get relief. So I start to enter into a pose thinking this is just physical, and I just want to, play with it or explore it. And in a short amount of time, it just morphs into something layered with emotions. And it turns into primarily this emotional exploration. Or sometimes there's something that's, sort of churning and clattering in my mind, and I just want to come into a simple pose just to get a bit of clarity and relief from the mental exhaustion. And before I know it, my body is responding, and it seeps into a more of a physical. So, it doesn't take much for us to see that the physiology and the psychology and the emotional states are so layered that we just have to let go. We just have to trust that the body will, the mind, the heart will respond based on how much we're available to listening and opening. And then other times it's just a deeper call of the entire system to breathe a little bit more deeply. I mean, it's really amazing, a system that is so dependent on this oxygen as fuel, how the breath can stay so shallow for so long and can hold tension. So sometimes it's just as simple as breathing, asana, pranayama, movement of the breath, a movement of the body. Okay, so let's come on up, and we're simply going to do the other side of that three-way forward bend. So again, we want to start with the open position. So I'm recommending, unless you have enough, if you have enough softness from your mat and you have something there, you don't need this blanket, but I just have this floor in front of me. So once you're up, come on up, please. And this time we'll reverse it. So we'll take that right leg and bring it in towards the body. We'll take the left leg and put it in front in a very intuitive open position. And sometimes I'll even just open the knees out a little bit to go deeper into the hips. Sometimes I'll angle this front leg out. So lumbar sacral area, both hips, pelvis, knees, they're all in this conspiracy to create this sense of a body. So you want to give them all a consideration. And then a forward bend, just a lovely sinking in, a slow descent, coming into this internal landscape of variation and mystery. So just let yourself relax. But once you find a good depth, make sure you can relax the shoulders, use any bolstering to support the upper body, and just continue your exploration. And certainly, I use this word exploration in the most vast way that I can. So if you find yourself in the chattering of the mind, the blah, blah, blah of the mind, the preoccupation of the mind, you can also lean into the actual experience of that, this series of thoughts that are running that seem to control us and create such a concern and anxiety. What is that? what is the difference between just this vague imagery, this virtual reality that just seems like a screen in the mind, to what is the actual substance of these thoughts? So this is what I'm really saying, is if we're drifting through the ocean, we don't have to go for the coral, we don't have to go for the sharks, we don't have to go for the seaweed. We can just drift, and whatever arises, then if we want to bring light, we want to bring the intelligence of awareness closer to it, we choose to do that. So if there's something in your sphere, in your presence, that is arising, don't judge it, don't push it away, bring it in, invite it for exploration, but be subtle about it, be sensitive with it, don't judge it. Allow yourself to relax and see if you can make this extremely fine discernment between what's actual and how you may be overlaying, superimposing habit, memory, thought, conditioning, programming. Such a beautiful thing to explore yourself. Again, let's come on up. Let's come up from the depths for a breath of air. And let's allow this left leg to extend out. So just keep it in front of you. I'm just going to turn a bit, because the angle of the back leg is the important thing here. So we're going to take the right leg and then bring it in back of you. So as we open the leg, yeah, so this may be plenty. I'm just kind of showing that the right hip will tug. So we can open as much, but not to force it, just that gentle tugging. And then if the hips are tight and torquing and a little misaligned, it can throw you off to the left. So put whatever stack you need there to come over. If you want to put it on the inside of the leg, it just depends on these pesky pelvic ligaments, not to mention the hip flexors, not to mention the hamstring of the extended leg. You get the picture. And then just let your body relax wherever it's going to relax. So you can just stay here, and then we'll go back down for, take a breath of air and go back down into the exploration. I didn't really plan on using all these watery ocean metaphors, but I'm reading this lovely book about free diving and how these free divers just hold their breath for several minutes and just float and enter into another realm. And it's really kind of interesting because the constituent elements of seawater is practically identical to the constituent elements of the fluids of the body. So in a way, we really are living in this internal ocean. And actually, the deeper we relax into it, the more mysterious it does get. So just allow yourself to, use whatever is there. The only guide, the only teacher ever is your actual direct current experience. So the floating is also the relaxing. The letting go of specifics is also the relaxing. The softening and the gentleness of the breathing, the allowing the breath to move deeper into the body is also relaxing.
So let us come on up here, please. And we'll go back to pretty much where we were. First thing is to get this right leg around front, but nice and slow. I know this is an interesting one to come out of. So, give yourself time to feel all the little tingling and the details and the sort of the way the chi is distributing after the contraction. And then we'll bring that right leg back in. So we have the left leg forward. And then I was suggesting to bring it up onto the right calf, the left leg on top. Again, if this is not accessible to you right now, then put it out front, angle the legs however you would like, and let's go right back into our forward bend. Open square or tight square. And just to know, there will be urges. Yes, there will be urges to suppress things. There will be urges to readjust, many urges. I don't have to list them all. So two things, the opportunity here is, first of all, see if you can begin to notice, because that's all we're doing is noticing. Where do these urges come from? What are these urges responding to? How do these urges reflect discomfort? So that's one thing, one opportunity. The other opportunity is to know that if an urge is urging you to withdraw a bit, to not begin to struggle, to make an adjustment that your body is calling for, please listen to that. So it's not a matter, the timing is really random. We're basically all on the same time, but it might not be your timing. So sometimes we just need to withdraw. We just need to come out. We need to take a breath. We need to open the eyes and see light and color, regroup, give the body the message that we're listening and it's safe, and then go back in. So these urges are very, very interesting to see what they are honestly reflecting and where they're coming from. And not simply urges, but also, this primary tool that we're using called noticing. What is noticing? Where does noticing come from? Where do urges come from? Where do noticing come from? And what would happen if we let them both soften a bit, let them both expand a bit, and allowed ourselves to drift even deeper? Good. So once again, let's unfold nice and slowly. And let's extend the legs out and find a comfortable position for yourself. And just let's relax. We'll take a rest now after all of that. And just an ongoing open-ended invitation to
actually feel the physical presence of the breath entering the body. Nothing more to do except really feel it, and the physical presence of the breath leaving the body. Yeah, and one of the things that we can, be a little, I don't want to say suspicious, because we don't want to be suspicious about our own thoughts, but maybe just the process of thinking, is that if we notice very carefully, the thoughts are so fragmented. They come and they go, they're often random, they're repetitive. So they're not really reflective of the totality of life, the totality of actuality. So this is, in a way, a trap of the mind, and it's a function of the mind, is that it fragments. It fragments the totality of reality. It's sometimes a very useful tool because we want to function and get something done, but we also want to have a practice where we allow that fragmentation to really drift back to where it came from and feel just in this moment directly the open-ended, spacious, infinite energy of reality itself, of actuality. So let us come on up from this lovely rest, and I want to show just a bunch of different variations for this next thing that we're going to do. So I'm going to show it first with the bolster, because that's easiest. And if you don't have a bolster, then you can use a combination of your pillows and blankets to mimic this. Also, well, I'll show that afterwards. I'll just show what we're going to do, and then we'll go through the different variations, because I don't know. I don't know your knees that well, so they're your knees. So the first thing, that if your knees are able to bend, and some of them are not, well, they're able to bend, but the compression might be too much. And let me just say a word about that when we do start to dehydrate and the ligaments of the knees start to tighten and misalign, certainly we want to be safe, and we do not want to injure, or we don't want to visit a previous injury. But if we never address it, it doesn't go away. It continues this contraction energy. So we want to find a way, whatever part of the body, just as I was talking about the ankles, to safely venture into where this can start to loosen. It can start to come back to resilience and suppleness. So I'm going to show something for that. So if you've already made up your mind that, no, my knees can't do this,
you may just want to explore what's possible and how we can just approach rather slowly. So with that being said, if you're going to bend the knees back, the first suggestion I'm suggesting is to sit between the heels, bring the bolster into the small of the back, so it's coming out in a vertical way towards the base of the skull, and very slowly just lower your body over this. Yeah. So it's okay for the knees to come up a little bit if they want to. So this would be a supported saddle pose. The other thing you could consider is you could put something under the big bolster. So if I elevate it on an angle up, this compression compared to the other is much less. So you can build this bolster up so you may be able to explore this. Yeah. So that's the first choice. The second modification, I'll just leave this elevated, would be to do one knee at a time. So I could release the left leg out and just come back. So this just doesn't tighten as deeply into the hips and allows the lumbar a little bit more kind of opening if we just do one knee at a time. So you could do one knee at a time, and I'll remind you about halfway if you would like to switch over. Yeah. Okay. So that's 1, 2 variations. The next thing that you could do, if you're interested in what I was saying about how to approach the knees, even if you're not able to fully bend them back, what we do is we combine the bending of the knee separate from the backward bend. Yes, and I've seen results with this with myself, but with many people over the years. So what you can do is you could sit up on the bolster. So I'm quite high here and just bend the knees back. So it doesn't have to be this high, but wherever you're feeling, it's that place where always you feel safe, you're not going to injure, but you're applying the compression. The compression is the magic. So the synovial fluids and all the things can start to open. So you could do this for some time, and then you could release the knees and come into that backward bend. So put something, the bolster or something that'll support the body, and come into the backward bend. So now I'm feeling that in my knees. And then you could also choose, be here for a couple of minutes, come out of the backward bend, go back to the knees. So you're doing it separately. And then you can control more the compression you're applying for the knees. Yeah, so there's another choice. And then just the last one would be if you're working with pillows and blankets and an assortment of things, then we simply want to support the entire length of the body so the head isn't hanging back. So let's see how this works for me. And then you could still bend the knees if that's something you're interested in exploring. So bending the knees back, pulling your pillows in, and then coming into this. Yeah, so I'm getting support a little bit. I do a little bit more for my head here. So I don't want this. I don't want the head hanging back like that. So I would just bring my towel up, put it under. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so we want the upper body neck supported, not dangling. Sometimes we do that, the dangling. This is more this, quadricep area, hip area, lumbar area with the knees bent back. It's really the deepest back bend we do in yin. But make it work for you. And again, if you don't have the bolsters, you could bend the knees back by just supporting them up on the pillows. Yeah, and then work with the knees a bit, a couple of minutes, release them out, go into the backward bend. Okay, I'll leave you to it. And as always, the magic, the therapeutic effect of the compression happens over time. So always set your body up not for the initial, look how deep I'm going, don't let your ego have a vote, but that you can rest in this position for a long time, which is relative, but you get the idea. one of the reasons that I emphasize this exploration of what is actual is because we we can have a tremendous amount of theoretical knowledge, a knowledge of technique, a knowledge of spiritual practices, but at some point a knowledge of anatomy. We can have a tremendous amount. We can be very well educated on that level, but when we enter into the actuality of the experience right now in this moment, it's mostly irrelevant, because that's all conceptual. Everything we've accumulated, all our practices, all our knowledge, it can help us and guide us and hold, certainly it can be a support for the container that we're exploring, but at some point it just becomes irrelevant. And how to then just let that go. It's almost as if we're driving to go on our exploration of the ocean, and we've got all our books out and our charts and our equipment. But when we actually enter into the water, we actually start to descend into the depths. We're having an actual experience, and how to allow the conditioning to take a back seat and feel the texture of what's actual. Feel the moment to moment nature of what is arising, and how do we navigate that. So if you're exploring just having one knee bent back and you're interested in switching over to the other knee, this would be a good time to do it. But not necessary. We're not interested in things being symmetrical. See if you can allow any contractions of the mind just to release into and relax into the heart. And see if you can allow any contractions of the body just to soften a bit, to breathe a bit, and to relax into the heart. And allow any contractions of the heart, any restrictions or any tightness, any anxiety that may be humming in the heart. Let it relax and let it soften into itself. So this pulsing of the heart, this beating of the heart is simply vibrating out softness, gentleness, safety, intelligence, healing, and love. And quite literally, this pulsing of the heart that is vibrating these qualities of love and healing are in training and synchronizing with every cell in your body. So this is literal. So we want to feel this. We can creatively imagine the qualities, but the heart is synchronizing and in training with the cells and the organs and the glands. This is an inner dance of infinite beauty. So just let the dance be. Let the dance dance. So whatever position you have found yourself in, let's begin to release out of it. So do move slowly, especially if you have been working into the knees. They're tricky business, these knees. So go slowly, lower back, have a little movement, ease back into the muscular tension. And then when you feel somewhat safe and released, let's find a comfortable position and we will take a rest. As a matter of fact, what I would like to do is I would like to come into a bit of a restorative for this rest so we can breathe a bit. So before you completely lie down, if you could put, maybe not this high, but put your pelvis, this is our pretty standard restorative relaxation, is to just put your pelvis on something soft so it'll ease the compression out of the lower back. So just a nice cradle for the pelvis and no compression. Put your legs up on a pillow or something and tuck something under your neck. Could be a roll of a towel or something, or your little bolster if you have it, and just let the legs, if you will, don't put the what you have under your knees particularly. Let the heels just go over what you're doing, so the heels are not compressing. But I'd like to have the knees straight. You can open the legs a little bit. Let the arms relax just by your side. Let your fingers relax, your palms up. So there's a very interesting interplay between the tension of your mind and the tension of your body. So for us to be in optimal health and to hold the deepest sense of well-being that we can, we want the body to contract, we want the mind to contract, but we also want the body to expand and the mind to expand. So if this becomes out of balance, then we become out of balance. So one of the explorations of the yin practice, when we're talking about our breathing, is the reconnection with, you will, and even it's a bit of an education with the exhalation, because the exhale breath, the yin breath, is the breath of the release, of the relaxation, of the letting go. So if we're primarily habituated to inhaling, then we're holding more contraction than we're releasing. And we want to find that balance. Just like if we're having obsessive thoughts, then the energy of the mind is holding more contraction than just allowing it to expand, if you will. Yes? So what I would like to do is I would like to start us on this breath, but because everyone's breathing patterns will be different, I'll just come in and offer a little guidance, but please go at your own capacity, go at your own rhythm. I'm going to give a general framework. So that's the physical part of it. The other part of it I would like you to notice is when I just allow it to happen, is notice when the tension of the mind then comes in and disturbs the rhythm of the breathing. And this is inevitable that it will happen. But we just want to notice this based on what our patterns are, and this very, very interesting relationship between the more contracted the mind, that's a blocked energy, will then block the patterns of the breathing. So what I'm suggesting is to inhale for three counts, yes, 3 beats. It doesn't have to be your fullest inhale, but I would like you to inhale for 3 and then exhale for 9. So this is a rather lengthy exhale. You may even have to contract the abdominal muscles at the end and keep exhaling. And at the end of the exhale, hold it for 3 again. And then go back into the inhale for 1, 2, 3. Exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hold the end of the exhale, 2, 3. Come back into the inhale. So just 3 beats of the inhale, 9 counts of the exhale. Hold it at the very end for another 3, and then come back into the inhale. And so just establish this rhythm. And once you've established this rhythm, just notice when the mind wants to come and take you away from it. If you're able to do this with your mouth closed and through your nasal passages, that would be preferred. If not, you can open your mouth a bit. Don't worry about the pace of it. Go as slow or quickly as you like, but see if you can maintain 3 in, 9 out, 3 hold, back to 3 in. And just to know, very often when we
have a busy mind, a chattering mind, anxiety in the mind, a worried mind, what I'm calling a contracted mind, this is often a consequence of blockages in the body where the energy can't physically release. So it spirals up, it jumps up into the mind and is being held at that level. Probably where this is saying that we tense up, the tension of the body travels up into the imagery of the mind. So just notice this, just notice that we're allowing the breathing and the body and the imagery of the mind to become almost indistinguishable as we relax and just gently explore this breathing pattern. And please take a break if you'd like. We'll do it for, let's do it for 3 more if you're able to. The inhale for 3, the exhale for 9, the hold at for 3, and again. So three more, and then just relax. And then as you begin to just go back to your normal breathing rhythm, see if you can still feel this, the sensation of the inhalation being contracting, the exhalation being releasing. So this is a primary pattern we want to get as close as possible to. Again, this is from Stephen Harrison. We are conditioned to this notion of another who will give us love. We believe with all our being that we have found love when we find the other. We have not found love. We have found a hopelessly flawed projection. We have found an impossible image. We have found an other who cannot possibly give us what we already have, what we have always had, and what we will always have. We have found the obscuration of our vision, the forgetting of our love, the overwhelming sleepiness of conditioning. We have not found love, we have found contraction. We have shrunk the expansiveness of the universe into a bubble world consisting of me and the other. We become the center of the bubble, and all we see is a reflection of that center on the inner surface of the bubble. The shimmering world is perfect. It is just as we had hoped. It is all and everything. Then the bubble bursts. And let me just say that again, because I think it's something we don't want to let pass by, and we don't want to take it certainly on faith. But what I'm suggesting is this very interesting relationship that when energy in the body starts to get blocked, it has a way then of transforming itself into mental tension. And so those of us that have body practices that are exploring how to express somatically already know this,
that if we have some sort of mental conundrum or some obsessive thinking, the trap of the mind is to try to figure that out with the mind. But if we're able to get into the body, if we're able to walk or jump or dance or do yoga, immediately we start to find a place where we can move into equilibrium, or at least to see that, at least to start to experience that the physical pathways, that these pathways that are more visceral and embedded in the body have connection with the mental pathways, the imagery. So energetically, we're expanding our repertoire. Instead of it being, oh, the mind's doing this, the body's doing this. If I do this to the mind, the body will feel that way. What we get really interested is in the fluidity of the energy and how that expresses itself in a myriad of ways. We call it mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, but at some level, it's just our energy. And so we have an opportunity to be very, very fluid with that, to kind of go with the currents of that and explore what's apparent for us. This is why I say the actuality is where we enter, not the conceptuality. That's a whole different thing. Okay, so let's come out of this, please, this lovely rest, if you could. So just roll out and come on up. And just allow the legs to extend out at about hip width distance. So don't hold, if you can see this, if you're looking, you don't need to be looking, but if you are looking, I'm just allowing my feet to relax out. The weight of my feet is opening my hips. I'm not holding and activating from my quadriceps. So very relaxed here. And just about hip width and maybe a little bit out. Again, we're not holding. And then just come forward very gently. If you're finding too much resistance in the back of the legs, you could slip a towel or bolster under the knees if you'd like. If your body weight feels a little precarious and pulling into the lower back, then something bigger in front to rest elbows, hands, forehead on. And let's just sink into this, this very simple forward fold. This is why, holding space for this, this container of yin, it's not just a way to, be descriptive about slowing down and, specific asana of yoga. It's part of a dynamic of this contraction and expansion. So when we enter into this exploration of yin, we're entering into intuitive intelligence. We're cultivating this part of us that is just connected to really the whole flow of life. How can we deny that life itself is intuitive?
So we are allowing this, exploration to be intuitive, but we're also exploring, are we able to allow this intuitive intelligence to flow into our mind? So we feel that equilibrium. We feel that equilibrium of the yang energy of precision and knowledge, intellectual intelligence, and the equilibrium of that with the intuitive flow of life that is just simply open-ended. The comfort with the totality, the comfort with the open-ended intelligence of not knowing. And this is this study is primarily from the foundation of relaxing and just trusting life itself, the fabric and the intelligence of life, and letting that intuitive intelligence flow into our mind.
Good. So let's come on up from here. Nice and easy. And if you have that little bolster or something under your knees, just remove it. And if you have a big bolster, put the big bolster underneath those knees. Let the soles of the feet come together. And if you do not have a big bolster, just something to mimic the height of the large bolster. So a couple of blankets rolled up, a couple of blankets on a pillow. I just want to elevate the femurs out of the hips so they can relax and isolate this more into the lumbar. So soften the lower back. And this is particularly, this is a lovely position to really isolate and really explore. Bring a magnifying glass to this lumbar area here and just sink into it. Don't, the discomfort is not punitive. The discomfort is there really to help to inform you and educate you and communicate with you. So just approach it, move into it slowly, let this dance of contraction and expansion happen naturally. The mind is restless, turbulent, is strong, and unyielding, as difficult to subdue as the wind. The Bhagavad Gita. Simply sink in. Let the breath just intermingle. Relax the breath, soften the breath, slow down the breath. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, and most wonderful, wonderful, and yet again, wonderful. Will Shakespeare. Although I do somehow feel like I could have wrote that. So let us come on up from here, please. And when you come on up, get yourself one of your towels or blankets and just make a nice little roll. I would just like to put this under the neck to elevate the chin a bit. So the cervical spine is completely supported and we can maybe twist into it a little bit. And then the other thing that would be good to have, if you do have the small bolster, that would be ideal, especially for the weight. If you don't have the small bolster, then something comparable. If you have a heavy blanket or a heavy pillow, it's not that necessary. It just helps to sort of ground and go a little bit deeper into this twist. So what I would like to do is I would like for you to lie down on your back and take that roll and just put it under the neck. Yeah, so not the back of the head. Again, maybe it's good if I show it, but I can also describe it. This is ideal. So my chin is up, feels very supported in my cervical spine. My chin is up, I mean, by that I mean above the forehead. So this is supporting the natural curve of the cervical spine. And then we'll put both feet on the floor. And I'd like you to just allow both legs to relax down towards the floor. So we're just in a reclining twist. Try not to let the left shoulder come up. And then if you bring the knees up and then place that weight, whatever you have, over that left leg. So it's kind of below the knee. It's on my thigh, over my shin. It's just weighting. Two things. The weight is exaggerating the twist, yes, but it's also kind of grounding my knees up so they don't open out and lessen the twist. And then from here, just gently, with the roll under the neck, let the head go to the left. So the left ear is coming towards the roll. So we got a little bit of twist in the neck that spirals down into the lower spine. So this nice weighted twist with the and very gently. So whatever you're feeling in the neck, especially if you have some history with it, just ease into it. Yeah, so we're easing into the upper spine. We're compressing with the weight on the left leg into the lower spine. Left shoulder, we want to stay on the floor. So if you would like to shift over to the other side, we'll just basically do the same thing. And we'll just allow the legs to go to the other side. It's nice to bring first, obviously bring the upper spine back to neutral. And once the knees go towards the floor, to bring them up to the chest a little bit. So this just sort of compresses more into the lumbar. And typically, if we didn't have the weight, the knees tend to open. So we'll just weight the legs over with whatever you have, and then you can let the neck go in the opposite direction. So this side, knees going to the left, and we're just bringing that ear towards the roll on the right side. So I'd just like to share this this very interesting thing relating to the fascia of the body. And also in relation, since we started out talking about the ocean and this metaphor of fluidity, John here, this is from John Barnes. This book is on the reading list I put out. But he's talking about the ground substance. The ground substance is the fluidity of the body, where all of the cellular and these transactions happen, just for your reference. But it's just, he's just really sort of a poet when it comes to explaining the system at the level of the collagen and the myofascial system. Going deeper, I believe our mind body is a hologram, and that when we are traumatized, the vibrations of our hologram are altered. The vectors of force go through us and change the flow and frequency of our energy consciousness that move throughout the body at an incredibly rapid rate. So that change in frequency tends to dehydrate that which is meant to be fluid, the ground substance of the fascia. Over time, this ultimately turns into crushing pressure that produces the symptoms of pain, restriction, of motion, and malfunction of our physiology. So that's just a lovely, deep, beautiful contemplation that this discomfort and pain and dysfunction that we experience at some level is a product of our frequency changing. That traumas entering the body are changing this energy consciousness frequency that is meant to move freely and openly. And so again, for me, this is allowing myself, my exploration, my awareness to just sink as deeply as it can, where it's just mysterious, but we have some sense of that this fascial system is, brilliantly designed with the ability to connect and to communicate and to vibrate and to hold frequency in the body. So once again, you can remove the weight if you have some weight over your legs, and you can bring your upper spine back to a nice straight spine. And you can just make yourself comfortable here in any way that you would prefer. And please, if you prefer to stay in Shavasana, that would be lovely. If you would like to sit up and close with me, that would be your choice. And I'd like to close with a prayer from the Navajo Nation. Before me, peaceful. Behind me, peaceful. Under me, peaceful. Over me, peaceful. All around me, peaceful. Aloha.